Last time? The birth of Islam. Born in Mecca and raised in Medina, the community now stood at the frontier of two great empires. How could this small community destroy Sasanian Persia and seize Byzantine lands within a generation? History Episode 35. Medieval Era. The Expansion of the Islamic Empires. Part 1. The Fall of the Levant. Worn down by prolonged war, Byzantine border defences had already grown thin in many places. In 634 CE, Arab Muslim forces crossed the Syrian border and began their advance. In 636 CE, Muslim forces won a decisive victory over the Byzantines at Yarmouk. With this defeat, Byzantium effectively lost control over the region of Syria. After a siege that began in 637, Jerusalem surrendered through negotiation around 638 CE. Caliph Umar is said to have promised to protect the city's churches and residents. Part 2. The Fall of Persia. The Sasanian Empire was already deeply shaken by prolonged war and court turmoil. In 633 CE, Muslim forces advanced into Mesopotamia and attacked Sasanian territory. Around 636 CE, the Sasanian army was crushed at Qadisiyah, and Ctesiphon soon fell. Sasanian resistance continued, and Muslim forces pushed on across the Zagros into the Iranian plateau. Around 642 CE, defeat at Nahavand left the Sasanians unable to organize large-scale resistance. The last king, Yazdegerd III, fled from place to place, and is said to have been killed in 651 CE. Part 3. To the Nile. Egypt was one of the wealthiest grain-producing regions of the Byzantine Empire. In 640 CE, Muslim forces defeated the Byzantines at the Battle of Heliopolis. Under a 641 treaty, Byzantines left Alexandria the next year, placing Egypt under Muslim control. Over the following decades, Muslim forces gradually pushed westward along the North African coast. Within just 20 years of Muhammad's death, the map of the world had already changed dramatically. Part 4. Ruling the Conquered Lands. The rapid expansion depended not only on military conditions, but also on how the new rulers governed conquered lands. First, both empires had been deeply exhausted by decades of prolonged war. Second, early Muslim armies used mobility and flexible command to concentrate forces effectively. Many cities and regions surrendered under agreements, where non-Muslim communities paid taxes for protection and continued religious life. Over time, the status of protected non-Muslim communities developed into the legal framework known as dhimma. In many regions, existing officials and administrative practices continued for a time, reducing disruption after conquest. Part 5. A new dynasty in Damascus. Uthman, the third caliph, faced growing criticism in his later years over the appointment of relatives and provincial governance. In 656 CE, Uthman was assassinated by rebels, plunging the community into crisis. Ali became the fourth caliph, but disputes over Uthman's murder and Ali's rule developed into the First Civil War. In 661, after Ali's assassination, Hassan stepped aside, and Muawiyah was recognized as caliph. Muawiyah made Damascus in Syria his political base, the new center of the caliphate. Part 6. To the Far East and West. In the late 690s, Abd al-Malik promoted Arabic as the central language of administration and established a distinct Islamic coinage system. To the east, forces led by General Qutayba conquered Bukhara. In 712 CE, Samarkand, a key Silk Road city, was also conquered. Around the same time, other forces advanced into the Sindh region along the Indus River. Berber groups in North Africa alternately resisted and cooperated. And many later joined Muslim armies. In 711 CE, Berber troops led by Tariq crossed the Strait of Gibraltar into Iberia. The empire stretched from the Atlantic to the Indus, becoming one of the largest states in the world at the time. Part 7. At the gates of Europe. In 732 CE, Umayyad forces were stopped by Charles Martel at the Battle of Tours. Historians debate the battle's significance, but it checked deep advances north, while some Muslim positions in southern Gaul remained. Earlier, in 717 to 718, the Umayyad siege of Constantinople had also failed against determined Byzantine resistance. By the 730s, the pace of expansion was slowing, as the empire encountered stronger resistance and growing internal problems. Part 8. One Empire, Many Worlds. The empire was now home to Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, and Berbers living side by side. Non-Arab converts to Islam, known as Mawali, were often not treated as fully equal. At the same time, Persian administrative traditions and Greek and Syriac learning continued, laying foundations for later exchange. In the provinces, groups such as the Kayyites continued challenging Umayyad authority. Disputes over leadership and legitimacy that began after Muhammad's death continued within this vast empire. The small community from Arabia had become a world spanning 3 continents. Yet within it, an old and unresolved question still remained. Next time, we explore how these conflicts contributed to the later emergence of Sunni and Shia Islam. That story continues in the next episode.